Every year, sharks kill about 10 people worldwide, but that's nothing compared to what lurked in prehistoric oceans. And today I'm going to tell you exactly why you have zero chance of surviving any of these ocean monsters. From giant fish to deadly lizards, there's zero chance you're surviving any of today's ocean predators. And if you think you could survive, hit the like and subscribe button, because only the smart people who can actually survive do that. Then comment down below how wrong you're gonna be. So you might think sharks are scary, but they're just the baby cousins of the real ocean nightmares. Let's start with Clidastes, the smallest killer on our list, and somehow still your worst aquatic nightmare. This is the runt of the prehistoric ocean family at a mere 10 to 13 feet long. Only 13 feet, I hear some of you typing, and that, my friends, is exactly the kind of thinking that would get you killed first in a horror movie. Here's the bad news. While modern Olympic swimmers top out at about 5 miles per hour, Clidastes could slice through water at nearly 20 miles per hour. That's not just faster than you, that's you can't even see it coming fast. Imagine the fastest shark you've seen in those nature documentaries, then add rocket boosters. That's Clidastes. But wait, it gets worse. Unlike modern predators that typically hunt alone, there's compelling evidence that Clidastes hunted in packs. So while you're frantically swimming away from one, 3 more are circling around to cut off your escape. They were basically the wolves of the Cretaceous seas, communicating and coordinating attacks with terrifying efficiency. But I would just swim to shore, except Clidastes frequently hunted in shallow coastal waters, exactly where humans like to swim today. The beach wouldn't save you, it would just mean you die with sand between your toes. Now for the impossible part, those teeth. Clidastes had backward curved teeth that functioned like underwater fishhooks. Once they bit down, those teeth ensured prey couldn't slip away. No amount of struggling would free you. The more you fought, the deeper those teeth would sink. And honestly, that's probably the quickest death on our list, because next up we have the Halisaurus. And if you thought being hunted by a pack was bad, wait until you learn about a predator specifically evolved to ambush from places you'd never think to look. So you might think you'd be safe sticking to the shallow end, but Halisaurus, the stealth assassin of prehistoric oceans, specialized in turning beach days into your final moments on Earth. Well, this is another mosasaur that measured between 10 to 13 feet long, which is roughly the size of a large crocodile. But unlike Clidastes, who announced its presence with pack tactics, Halisaurus was the silent killer of prehistoric oceans. Here's the bad news. While modern beaches have lifeguards scanning for sharks, Halisaurus specifically evolved to hunt in shallow coastal waters, the exact places you'd be splashing around with your inflatable unicorn. These predators could comfortably navigate water just a few feet deep, turning any shoreline into a hunting ground. But the worst news, Halisaurus was the underwater equivalent of a stealth bomber. Fossil evidence shows they had specialized eyes positioned to look upward, allowing them to spot silhouettes against the surface while remaining completely hidden below. They can detect your kicking feet from 100 feet away while you have no idea where they are. Well, I would just stay alert and watch for movement, I hear some of you saying. Well, that leads us to the impossible part about this dinosaur. Halisaurus had uniquely backward curved teeth that worked like barbed fish hooks. These weren't designed just to grab. They were engineered to ensure that once bitten, prey stay bitten. A single strike from below would hook into you, and no amount of thrashing would free you. But the truly terrifying part, paleontologists believe Halisaurus could actually beach itself temporarily to catch prey at the water's edge, then wriggle back into deeper water, meaning even standing ankle deep wouldn't save you. At least with Halisaurus, you'd have a theoretical chance of spotting it if the water was crystal clear. But our next nightmare takes the concept of surprise attack to an entirely different level. Because how do you defend against a predator that can reach you without even moving its body? You might think hiding in rocks and crevices would save you, but our next nightmare, Cryptoclidus, evolved specifically to reach into those safe hiding spots with a neck that would make a giraffe jealous. Cryptoclidus was a 13-foot long plesiosaur that weighed around 1,600 pounds. Picture a seal with the neck of a giraffe and the hunting instincts of a great white shark. Evolution really outdid itself with this one. Well, here's the bad news. While most predators need to maneuver their entire body to attack, Cryptoclidus could keep its bulky body safely at a distance while extending its surprisingly long neck into tight spaces. Those underwater caves you're thinking about hiding in, they're actually just convenient drive-through windows for this thing. And the worst news, these teeth weren't just sharp. They were interlocking, basically functioning like a barred cage. Once Cryptoclidus closed its jaws around you, those teeth would mesh together, turning its mouth into a prison cell made of daggers. Now for the impossible part. Cryptoclidus had specialized sensory organs that allowed it to detect hidden prey through smell and possibly electroreception, meaning it could sense the electrical signals produced by your beating beating heart and muscle movements. Essentially, it could smell your fear and feel your heartbeat even when you were completely hidden from view. The fossil record shows that Cryptoclidus thrived for millions of years in the warm, shallow seas that covered much of Europe during the Jurassic period, which means this hunting strategy was incredibly effective. Their fossils have been found with stomach contents still preserved, showing fish that clearly thought hiding was a good idea too. But before you get too focused on the dangers of hiding, let's talk about our next prehistoric nightmare, a creature so unexpected that it defies everything you think you know about one of the ocean's most peaceful animals. It's just a turtle might be the last word you ever say when facing our next prehistoric horror. Archelon, a sea turtle that took the cute little reptile you know today and supersized it into a bone-crushing nightmare. This is the largest turtle to ever exist. At 15 feet long and weighing over 2 tons, it was roughly the size of a small school bus. For comparison, the largest modern sea turtle, the leatherback, maxes out at about 7 feet. Archelon wasn't just bigger, it was an entirely different weight class. Here's the bad news. Unlike the peaceful plant-munching turtles at your local pet store, Archelon was an active predator. Those documentaries showing turtles slowly nibbling on lettuce, replace that lettuce with your leg and speed up the footage about 10 times. Not so cute anymore, is it? But the worst news, Archelon's jaws weren't designed for lettuce at all. They were evolved to crush the shells of ammonites, prehistoric squid relatives with shells harder than modern crab. Scientists estimate its bite force at around 2,000 psi, which is strong enough to snap through bone like it was breaking a pencil. For reference, that's nearly twice the bite force of an alligator. Now for the impossible part. Unlike modern sea turtles with their rigid shells, Archelon had a leathery, more flexible carapace. This wasn't a design flaw though. It was an advantage that made it surprisingly maneuverable. You'd expect something that big to be slow and clumsy, but Archelon could change direction with shocking agility, a trait that modern turtles sacrifice for better protection. And the most disturbing part, Archelon likely had an extremely long lifespan. Even by turtle standards, some scientists estimate they could have lived for over a century, meaning a single Archelon could have developed hunting techniques by eating thousands of victims over decades of practice. But at least with Archelon, you see what you get. Our next prehistoric nightmare, however, looks like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, a creature so bizarrely designed you'd think nature was just showing off. You might think keeping your distance from prehistoric predators would save you, but our next nightmare, Tanystropheus, was basically half neck, meaning far enough away didn't exist in the Triassic Ocean. If prehistoric oceans held a contest for most ridiculous body design that somehow works, Tanystropheus would win unanimously. Imagine a 20-foot reptile where half of that length is just neck. And no, not a flexible, graceful neck like a swan, a stiff pole-like neck supported by just 13 massively elongated vertebrae. It looked like nature started designing a crocodile, got distracted halfway through, and grafted on a giraffe neck instead. Here's the bad news though. Despite looking like an evolutionary practical joke, Tanystropheus was a deadly effective predator. That 10-foot neck gave it an attack range twice what you'd expect from its body size. Think you're at a safe distance? Think again. This thing could strike from what appeared to be completely non-threatening distance. And the worst news, unlike modern long-necked animals that wave their flexible necks around, Tanystropheus had a stiff, rigid neck that remained incredibly steady. This wasn't a design flaw, it was a specialized hunting adaptation. That unwavering neck was essentially a living sniper rifle, allowing for precise strikes without telegraphing its movements. And now for the impossible part. Fossil evidence suggests Tanystropheus could partially submerge its body and neck, leaving just its eyes and nostrils above water, meaning you might only see what looked like a small reptile head floating 10 feet away, with no clue that the rest of the predator extended underwater right towards you. Paleontologists believe Tanystropheus hunted by remaining motionless in shallow water, its body hidden while only its head was visible, like an ancient version of the old iceberg principle, except instead of 90% underwater, it was 50% is a surprise neck attack waiting to happen. But as bizarre as Tanystropheus was, at least it was relatively small at 20 feet. Our next prehistoric sea monster was so massive and terrifying that it hunted and ate other apex predators for breakfast, including creatures that would make modern sharks look like goldfish. So now we're done with all the weird stuff and we're moving right to the nightmare fuel, the undisputed king of the Cretaceous seas that ate other apex predators for breakfast. Tylosaurus was a mosasaur that reached lengths over 45 feet and weighed up to 7 tons. For perspective, that's about the size of a school bus, except this bus had a bite force that could snap a car in half. Fossil evidence shows these monsters were at the absolute top of the food chain, basically the T-Rex of the ocean. If T-Rex was somehow even more terrifying. But here's the bad news. Despite its enormous size, Tylosaurus could move with shocking speed and agility. Imagine something as big as a bus accelerating like a sports car. Its streamlined body and powerful tail allowed it to hit speeds estimated at 30 miles per hour. That's faster than the world's quickest human can run on land, except you're trying to escape in water. The worst news though, those jaws weren't just massive, they had a secret weapon. Tylosaurus had a second row of teeth on the roof of its mouth. Basically, these teeth meant that even if you somehow avoided the main teeth, which you wouldn't, you'd still be impaled by the backup teeth. Now for the impossible part. Tylosaurus didn't just eat fish or small prey. It actively hunted and devoured other marine reptiles, including plesiosaurs, other mosasaurs, and even massive sea turtles like Archelon. Fossil evidence shows Tylosaurus specimens with the remains of other apex predators in their stomachs. This thing was literally eating the monsters that would already be your worst nightmare. Fossils of Tylosaurus have also been found on 3 different continents, proving these apex predators dominated the oceans worldwide. Some specimens show signs of massive battles with equally large prey, displaying scars that would make a great white shark look like it had a minor scratch. But believe it or not, as mind-bogglingly massive as Tylosaurus was, it wasn't even the biggest predator in prehistoric seas. Our next nightmare makes Tylosaurus look like the warm-up act. Because if you thought Tylosaurus was big, it's time to dive deeper, literally, with Shonisaurus, a 50-foot living submarine that could swallow you whole without even bothering to chew. Shonisaurus with a massive ichthyosaur, that's fish lizard for those of you who failed ancient Greek by the way. It cruised the late Triassic oceans 237 million years ago. At 50 feet long and weighing at a staggering 30 tons, it was roughly the size of a modern whale shark, except instead of peacefully filter feeding, it was actively hunting everything in its path. Here's the bad news. Despite weighing as much as 7 elephants, Shonisaurus was incredibly fast. Its streamlined dolphin-like body was built for speed and efficiency, with estimates suggesting it could reach 30 miles per hour, which is faster than Olympic swimmers. The worst news though, Shonisaurus wasn't just a surface skimmer. Fossil evidence suggests these massive predators could dive to extreme depths, possibly over 1,000 feet down. So you think hiding in deep water would save you? Think again. These living submarines would actually follow you down, and unlike you, they wouldn't have to worry about things like crushing pressure or running out of oxygen. Now for the impossible part. Adult Shonisaurus didn't have teeth, but before you breathe a sigh of relief, here's why that's actually more terrifying. They didn't need teeth because they could create enough suction force to vacuum up prey whole. Their massive jaws could expand to swallow creatures 6 feet long in a single gulp. No biting, no chewing. Just one moment you're swimming, the next you're sliding down its throat. But the most terrifying of all, paleontologists believe Shonisaurus might have hunted in groups, which is based on mass fossil deposits found in Nevada. Imagine not just one 50-foot monster, but an entire pod of them coordinating to herd prey, including you into an inescapable death trap. But we're still not at the top of the prehistoric food chain. Our final ocean nightmare makes even the mighty Shonisaurus look like a middleweight contender. Prepare to meet the heavyweight champion of ancient seas. Because just when you thought the ocean couldn't get any more terrifying, we've saved the absolute biggest and worst for last. Shastasaurus, the largest marine reptile that ever lived. It made Shonisaurus look like an appetizer and turned being built different into being built for dinner. This is the end boss of prehistoric oceans. This colossal ichthyosaur reached an almost unbelievable 69 feet long, nice, and weighed up to 75 tons. That's heavier than a modern Tyrannosaurus Rex, 12 elephants, or your entire extended family at Thanksgiving dinner. Even the mighty blue whale, the largest animal alive today, would look at Shastasaurus with a healthy dose of respect. Here's the bad news though. Despite being roughly the weight of a passenger jet, Shastasaurus could move with surprising efficiency. Its hydrodynamic body was the result of over 30 million years of evolutionary fine-tuning, creating what scientists believe was one of the most perfectly streamlined large predators to ever exist. Nowhere in the ocean was safe. From shallow coastal waters to the darkest depth, you could not hide from the Shastasaurus. And to really double down on that worst news, Shastasaurus was a specialized deep water hunter. While other predators were restricted to certain depths, this monster could pursue prey through multiple ocean layers. Fossil evidence suggests it could dive to depths that would crush modern submarines, creating an inescapable death zone where running away simply wasn't an option, no matter how deep you went. And now for the impossible part. Like its smaller cousin, the Shonisaurus, Shastasaurus was toothless, but for an even more terrifying reason. It had a specialized suction feeding system that created a vacuum force when it opened its massive jaws. The pressure differential was so powerful, it could pull in prey from several feet away, like a living underwater vacuum cleaner. You wouldn't just be bitten, you'd be actively sucked into its gullet against all your efforts to swim away. And the most terrifying part, fossil evidence suggests Shastasaurus likely hunted in the absolute darkness of deep ocean trenches, meaning you wouldn't even see death coming. You just feel an unexpected current, a moment of confusion, and then darkness as you just became another meal for the most efficient ocean predator in Earth's history. So for all you still typing, I'm built different in the comments right now, just remember, Shastasaurus didn't care what you were built like because everything to it was just food. And if you're sitting there right now really saying to yourself, I could have beat a Shastasaurus in a fight, I want you to like this video and subscribe to the channel because you obviously are crazy and like this type of content. Then comment down below exactly how you'd survive each of the dinosaurs I talked about in this video. And if you want more videos talking about why you wouldn't survive the prehistoric ocean or just regular dinosaurs, click the video on screen now.